Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Elizabeth Hart and I am a proud descendant of Ngāpuhi and Ngāti Porou. I speak to you today following in the footsteps of the great women who have come before me and with the knowledge they shared. In particular, my nanny, E Mere Makere Waiwaha Ka, born in 1901 and died 1996, who was a midwife, a nurse, a mother, a grandmother and a great-grandmother. And also my mum, Helen Mountain Hart, born 1942 and died 2019, who was a teacher, a researcher, a mother and a grandmother. But this knowledge isn't just mine, mums and nannies. It's also nannies' mums and nannies' nannies, and so on and so on. Walk like you have 3,000 ancestors behind you, they say. And I do, and so do you. The stories I'm going to share with you are their stories. And I'll be sharing my whānau stories too to help demonstrate some of our tūpuna ways. We know the ways of our tūpuna from lots of evidence, pūrākau, waiata oriori, whakatauki, and from the accounts of some early European explorers.
I saw no quarrelling while I was there. They are kind to their women and children. I never observed either with a mark of violence upon them, nor did I ever see a child struck.
How our tūpuna treated and raised their pēpi and tamariki was so different to how the colonists raised their kids back in the day. When it comes to parenting, the European ways that were imposed on Māori were bad for whānau, parents, tamariki and pēpi. Women and children were considered property of their fathers and husbands. Kids were to be seen and not heard. In contrast, tūpuna parenting was beautiful. It was not once were warriors. And the beauty was because of the foundations of tūpuna parenting. And those are the fundamentals for how we treat all people in Te Ao Māori. And pēpi are included in this too. There are two pillars of tūpuna Māori parenting. Tuatahi, firstly, pēpi are born tapu, sacred and protected. So what do I really mean by tapu? Tapu is often described as simply meaning sacred, and for a single word translation, that's pretty good. But how you treat the things, places, and people that are tapu varies. From a Māori worldview, we're descended from the atua, from the gods. Tapu can be a form of protection by them, setting people and things apart, untouchable, not to be disturbed. Don't swim in that river, or don't climb that maunga, that mountain. It's tapu. But then tapu is also an inherited quality of all people, a quality that demands respect. Our tūpuna ensured their pēpi and tamariki would flourish by acknowledging that they were tapu. Our pēpi are born tapu as gifts and descendants of the atua. Do they ever stop being tapu? No, kao. They are tapu, sacred and to be protected from harm for their whole lives. And so are you, by the way. Tapu is best understood through story and lived experiences. From my own whānau, there are lots of ways that we acknowledge the tapu nature of pēpi. One important one is the treatment of the whenua, the placenta, and the pito, the cord stump. These are part of mama and pēpi and are tapu, so they need to be treated respectfully. So we bury them at home, wherever that may be. Another important way my whānau acknowledge the tapu nature of pēpi and tamariki is by not smacking. My nanny and grandpa never smacked my mum, auntie or uncle. They also never raised their voices, ever. To me, that is a beautiful and inspiring way to raise whānau. I certainly don't smack my kids, and I'm doing my best not to raise my voice, though it's easier some days than others. My third whānau story about tapu is about my great-grandfather, Nanny's dad, Panikena, who was born in 1872 and died in 1948. He used to bury the whenua and the pito of their whānau under a particular tree behind the house, all 16 or so of them. One day after a big storm, the tree fell down the bank and died. To him, this tree was so tapu, so sacred, that he held a 3-day tangi for the tree and grieved the loss of it, eventually burying most of it. He showed the tree the respect it deserved as a tapu place, a tapu object. We should do the same for our pepi and tamariki as well. They are tapu and need to be treated respectfully too. So that's tapu, one of the 2 po of Tūpuna Parenting. The second po is mana. You may not know it, but pepi are born with mana. Many people find this surprising, but not everyone knows the layers of mana. But it's absolutely true, and our tūpuna knew it. The dictionary says that mana is spiritual power, authority, prestige, and status. But mana is not just something that you earn with age and good service to your whānau and community. Mana is rooted in and sourced from tapu. They don't exist independently of each other. Where something is more tapu, it has more mana. Mana is inherited both from the atua, the gods, the source of all things tapu, and from our tūpuna, our ancestors, who are tapu as well. It is a potential source of power and greatness for pepi. That's huge, right? Our tūpuna knew that all that potential was there, and they treated their pepi as such, right from birth. Growing up, everyone is taught how to respect your elders, you know? You give your seat to them, or you hold a door open for another adult. You don't interrupt if someone's talking, give them your full attention. But how do we show respect for pepi and tamariki? It's not really a thing that you talk about. My nanny showed us her way. She was a gentle and softly spoken lady. She loved her tamariki and her mokopuna, her grandchildren, and was interested and often worried about their lives. She worried if a hapu mokopuna, a pregnant one, was home alone, or whether they were looking after themselves well enough, thereby looking after their pepi too. Pepi and tamariki were the centre of whānau life, with health, good eating and their educations all priorities. Nanny was great at explaining things, an incredibly patient woman. In one of my home videos, Nanny, Grandpa and Mum are all chatting, and I come into view holding a flower or a plant. And Nanny turned to me and said gently, "Oh, be careful with that weed. If you break it, a milky substance comes out."
If you break it, it's got a milky sort of discharge. Give it to me and I'll break it.
She showed us how to acknowledge the mana of pepi and tamariki. You love them and care for their needs, both physical and emotional. You give them your time and attention. And you teach them and explain te ao, explain the world. Our tūpuna did the same thing. Respecting pepi meant meeting their needs. Respecting tamariki meant listening to and answering them like you would an adult. They'll ask or do silly things because they're growing and learning. The mana and well-being of the whānau only grows if all members of the whānau have their tapu acknowledged and their mana respected, from the smallest pepi. Nā ngā ringa aroha, nā te nākau atawhai, ka ora ai te whānau. From loving hands, from a gentle heart, comes life for the whānau. Tēnā koutou katoa.